To have you back at the other side of Good Morning Anambra, the discussion segment. My name is still Ajinuchuku Okabwe, and in the studio today I have a guest. Before then, I let the cat out of the bag. Let us give you the topic that we will be discussing this morning. Ensuring inclusion, the impact of Anambra State Disability Rights Commission, ASDRC. And no other person can tell us more on that other than the chairman, Barrister Chuks Ezewuzie, who is the Anambra State Disability Rights Commission chairman. Great to have you here, Barrister Chuks Ezewuzie.
Thank you, my brother, and God bless you, viewers.
Well, having the chairman here is an honor, but at the same time, let us get to talk about the impact of ensuring inclusion when talking about the Anambra State Disability Rights. They said there is ability in every form of disability, and that I totally agree, because you begin to wonder how come the chairman of Anambra State Disability Rights Commission is Barrister Chuks, and yet he has an impaired vision. Barrister, please, before you begin to throw questions at the answers to questions that I'll be asking, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself, because I'm actually interested to meet a personality of yours.
Thank you very much. I'm most delighted to be here, and every opportunity I get to share my experience growing up and being where I am now, I count it an awesome privilege. And the most interesting thing is others hear it and become more useful to themselves and understand that not only there is ability in disability, but that disability is not the end of the road. There is still hope. If you find a person with disability out there, or a family member with disability, or a child with disability, a parent, a relative with disability, don't think the person has become a liability. No, it can become an asset for your family. That is one important thing I do not want you to miss in our discussion today. That person with disability in your family, your village, in your hometown, is not a liability. It can be an asset. I was a little child growing up like every other child, playing around like every other child with my sight, everything complete. I had no disability at all until when I was about 8 years old. Measles came to town, and there was an epidemic of measles in the community. And of course, that was years ago, and I did not have the required medical attention. That reminds me to say, if you have not administered that part of vaccination to your child, do it now, because prevention is better than cure. I had no medical attention that was required, so I lost my sight to measles. But I'm still very happy to be alive, because there are so many who died. Others got deformed in different types, different ways. Some had multiple disabilities, but I was fortunate to only lose my sight. And everyone thought there was no more hope, but God thought otherwise. I was sent to school. I had a primary education, a special education center, Oji River. I was sent there by Mr. Felix Ezonwu and Emmanuel Anyora. They joined hands to ensure that I went to school. Then I went to Federal Government College in Enugu thereafter, where I became the first and the only blind student at that time. But suffice it to say that before I left Federal Government College in Enugu, I left behind 12 blind students in the school. And I was a pioneer student there for the education of persons with disabilities. And of course, I proceeded from Federal Government College Enugu to University of Nigeria, Nsukka Enugu campus, where I studied law. Again, I was the first student that JAM gave admission to study there. There had been another student that came through a direct entry, I believe, but I was the first with JAM, and I graduated from the place, went to law school in Lagos, completed my practical and procedural studies at the Nigerian Law School, and the Rotary International, I'm always grateful to them, sent me to the United States of America, where I had my master's degree in international banking law. And again, I was a pioneer student of Maureen Center for Banking Law Studies at Boston University, where I graduated again and subsequently became the first Nigerian foreign legal consultant licensed by the Supreme Judicial Court of Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And that was after I had already been called to bar in Nigeria as a solicitor and advocate of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. So a lot of things when time will for me to go to the chronology of what God has done and brought me to where I am today. I was practicing in the United States before Chief Willie Obiano, the former governor of Anambra State, invited me to come home and said we would change the lives of persons with disabilities in Anambra State to be like their counterpart in the developed world. And that's how I became his senior special assistant on disability matters, and later became a special advisor to him on disability matters. And I'm presently the chairman, CEO of Anambra State Disability Rights Commission. We are continuing in the task of uplifting persons with disability, ensuring inclusiveness, and providing the voice that is much needed in the disability community. During the Obiano's time, we were so privileged to have a voice and a vote in the State Executive Council. And we did so many things. And presently, we are still thriving because the present governor, Mr. Governor, Professor C.C. Soludo, CFR, has said, what we have done is great, but now we must take it to the villages, to the rural villages, to ensure that those people in the rural areas have their lives uplifted like others that have already been to school. So great things are happening, and I'm delighted to be part of it.
Well, thank you so much. The chairman, Chuks, well, your intro was really, really nice. It was deliberate that I asked you to just give me a little bit of your biography there, telling me how it all started and everything, so that those that are watching us will definitely understand that there is an input in even being disability that you can contribute to wherever you are, starting from your family down to your society and then the country at large. And I'm sure that people that are watching us will definitely understand that if you have any relative, any member of your family that is having one disability form or the other, listening to this program, watching this program will definitely get to understand that all is not lost, that a lot can still be done in the life of that person. Now, coming to talk about this now, talking about disability in an environment where illiteracy is not at par with education. The challenges people feel and then the stigmatization that goes around people with disability. How would your experience and then the office that you now hold try to balance the equation so that people don't get to stigmatize people with any form of disability?
Thank you. You see, Mr. Governor, Professor C.C. Soludo, has often said it. He has often said it and makes everybody to understand that disability is not vulnerability. If you ask him, he will tell you that he's focusing on the vulnerable. And what's the difference between disability and vulnerability? That a person has found himself or herself with disability doesn't mean that that person is vulnerable. And what is the secret? Education. Education is access to better life. Disability is the loss of a certain part of your body, or maybe your eye, your leg, your arm. And there are also people with mental illness, and there are people whose disability is visible, there are others whose disability is not visible. At the same time, it's just the loss of a function of a certain vital aspect of your being, of your person, of your physical. Sometimes people think physical challenge, as they put it, is all there is to people with disability when you talk about physical challenges. But we always tell them to say physical challenge is not right. We don't use that word. We say persons with disabilities. It's the vulnerability is inability to use the ability or to use the availability. Let me say it again. Vulnerability is inability to use availability. What are we saying? When you are unable to use what is available to you, you become vulnerable. But a person with disability who is well equipped and able to use what is available, that person is not vulnerable. That is why you can see that there are many persons with disabilities who are lawyers, doctors, teachers, indifferent from architects. There are many professionals who are persons with disabilities, making a living, paying their taxes, sponsoring others, raising their families, and making a difference in the family. You heard about the former PAMSEC, who was the first, probably in West Africa, a PAMSEC with visual impairment, Dr. Fomata. You heard about Mr. Ezenwaka, who was fiscally, using their word, a fiscally challenged person. Yeah. In other words, he is on crutches, but this person became a PAMSEC here, permanent secretary, and now the PG of their community at China. What am I saying? There are many persons with disabilities who are in government doing different things. There's one who is a head of local government administration who was talking to me the other day. Many of them directors in their respective fields, making a living, helping to pay taxes and sponsoring their families. You don't call such people vulnerable. But we have people who are vulnerable, people who are in the rural areas that are still begging for living and unable to access what government makes available to them. They become vulnerable. So vulnerability is different forms. If you are not able to take advantage of what is available to you, you are vulnerable in that area. And everybody is vulnerable one way or the other. If you look at me now and you can't see me, and maybe you are holding something in your hand, and someone else is telling me he's holding a bottle of wine, but indeed you are holding a staff. Now you can define vulnerability in that context, that this person cannot see that you are holding a bottle of wine instead of a stick. All right. So it becomes clear that the person is unable to see exactly what you. So you can describe that person vulnerable in that area. But the general vulnerability is what people know. So they stigmatize persons with disability as vulnerable, as beggars, as people. You know, when you see them there, you think, okay, this person is a beggar just because he's not functioning with a certain part of his body. Same thing happens in the churches. You see a person with disability who has come to worship God, automatically, parishioners or ushers begin to think this person has come to beg for alms. But indeed, there are even many pastors, many ministers, bishops, who are persons with disabilities. We believe in miracle that God can heal and deliver. But while you wait, serve God the way you are, because you are an instrument God has set up to bless others. And that's what I'm doing.
Thank you so much. Well, you're really doing great in that aspect. Now, trying to bring this issue of vulnerability, disability that we all see in our society. I'm sure if you walk from here down to what is it called, Aroma and probably Thameside, you will see one or two people with disability begging. What is your organization trying to do in order to curb this? Because those people are exposed to so many vices. Because you see a mother begging with a little child, and that child is deprived of basic education, and you said education is key. So what's your organization trying to do in order to make sure that we have less of these street beggars and then more of their infants gaining proper education in order for them to build their family and probably themselves out of the dangers of begging and then other social vices?
Thank you. Anambra State Disability Rights Commission is constituted by Section 3 of the Disability Rights Law 2018 as an arm of government. It's not an NGO, it's not an association, it's a governmental agency charged with the responsibility of implementing the provisions of the Anambra State Disability Rights Law. And it is designed to protect persons with disabilities from discrimination. It's designed to promote the rights and welfare of persons with disabilities in Anambra State, whether they are citizens or residents. For the beggars on the street, the law is against begging for living and discourages the act of begging as means of livelihood. We worked well with the former Commissioner of Women Affairs, Minister of Women Affairs, who at that time would use vehicles to go on the street, pick up these beggars and send them to either school, and the ones that are not from Anambra State, send them to their respective states. Recently, there are states that have turned beggars away from their states. What did they do? They chartered vehicles and came to Anambra State, home for all. Most of these people you see are not persons from Anambra State. Many of them are not people from Anambra State. They come from other states because they know that our people are very generous. So they come here, they make living through begging. And we discourage that, but the only thing we can do is encourage them or help them to get to schools. We have a special education center at Isulo. There is a deaf school in Oka here. There is a deaf school in Onisha. There is at Isulo in the Orumba South local government. We have a school for the blind, for the deaf, and by the way, we've been calling for people to help us put amenities in that school and repair the infrastructures that need attention in that school, so that when we send persons to the school, they will stay, study, and live in a very good environment, a habitable environment. We have another school at Newi, we have another school at Umuchu. So now there is in another state, Ujiriva, Omahia, all around the southeast, there are schools for persons with disabilities, and they call it school for the handicapped. All we say is these people need to be in school. They graduate like we did. They make a living like we are doing, and they excel in their respective fields of endeavor, And in Anambra State, we are helping the ones that have graduated or that are still in school. Those that are still in school, we are helping. And the ones that have graduated, we work for their employment. If you remember, the last time there was a time we had a massive employment of persons with disabilities, up to over 300 persons with disabilities were employed into the civil service workforce, and they're doing great. And presently, we have about 40 of them that were recently employed into teaching profession. They were hired amongst the 8,000 teachers Mr. Governor gave a job recently. And there were about 40 persons with disabilities who are now teachers. And we are still hoping for better ones, because the law says in section 45 of Disability Rights Law that if you employ, you must reserve 1% for persons with disabilities. So you can see there is opportunity for them to be employed, even in the private sectors. If you're a company in Anambra State and you employ up to 100 people in your workforce, the law says you must reserve 1%, at least 1% of those 100 persons employed in your workforce to persons with disabilities. So if you have 1,000 employees in your office, you can know how many you were supposed to give to persons with disabilities. If we implement the provision of this law, no person with disability will be a beggar. No person with disability will be walking with, the street without a job. No person with disability will be looking onto somebody else for living, to earn a living. No, there are opportunities, but we just need to implement the provision of the law. We need to encourage the private and public sector to go by the provision, by the stipulations of this law. Then persons with disabilities in Anambra State will participate in what Mr. Governor said, for them to live here, enjoy here, work here, relax here, and have a mega city state where everyone is comfortable.
Now, coming to talk about this, the sickness that we're talking about now, how much of this that you've just said is actually happening in this present government? Is 1%, 1% of people in disability in government presently as we speak?
I wouldn't say so. I can only say we are getting there. Right now, if you know, when 8,000 teachers were employed, you can do the mathematics. We had 40. So we are not there yet. We are getting there. We are trusting that all those who are qualified, we are not asking for people who are not qualified to be employed. It's not a welfare scheme. We are saying all those who are qualified, the school leavers, those who have graduated, need to be employed. But the best thing we can do for them is to give them jobs. It's not necessarily to give them arms. It's not to give them a token and call it empowerment, but rather to help them to make a living. Because if you give somebody bread, you fed the person once. But if you teach him to beg, you fed. If you teach the person to bake bread, then you've empowered him for life to help himself, to be you want the person to be resourceful, you want the person to be independent, you want the person to be self-reliant. Therefore, what they need is employment. For those people who cannot be employed, who do not have that kind of qualification, they possess certain skills. We can empower them to begin to help themselves. There are entrepreneurs with disabilities. There are persons with disabilities in different forms of businesses, and we are forming them into cooperative societies. We have up to 20 cooperative societies of persons with disabilities in Anambra State. And what they're asking us is empowerment so that their members can thrive in their vocations and make a living and pay taxes like every other citizen.
Thank you so much, Chairman Ezewuzie. Let us go for a short break and get to feel the pulse of our parliamentarians. We'll be back shortly so that you tell us more about how Anambra State is being inclusive of people living with disability. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
By my own understanding, I think the government should start to give them some incentive like vocational education, engage them into like learning of shoemaking, tailoring, and the repairing of shoes and some of electrical appliances that are being used in the home. If they can learn how to do this, maybe a government sponsor the workshop whereby they will be trained on how to do this job. Then the government will provide for them like a kind of, give them, what is it called? Maybe provide for them equipment and the environment which they need to operate, you understand?
They are human beings, and many of them can do something. That they are disabilities does not mean they are not human beings, and does not mean that they cannot do something. Only that mistakenly or by nature, they were not perfectly fit as other people. But they are still good to some part of, to some things in life. At least some of them, it depends the kind of disability the person. If there's the one that cannot walk, but he can make use of his hand. Some cannot write, but they can walk. Some have disability on their eyes. Then different part of disabilities, they have something that they can do in the society because they are human beings. It's maybe as a result of accident, as a result of sickness, or one thing or the other. So it is good that government include them in societies or employment or in work. It is good.
Yeah, as far as Anambra State government is concerned, the people with disability has been always included in this administration, even in the previous administration, you know. So you need to give them sense of belonging, you know, by appointing them in the key sectors in the ministry and in the program, MDAs, ministry, department, and agencies. So we just need to give them sense of belonging so that they will feel among the people in the system. And definitely, because of the rigid appointments whereby we don't recognize them, it now makes them, they take it as a responsibility to do well when being appointed in any specific positions. So I really believe people in disability, we need to include them in the system.
If I'm one na okwesịrị ọ bụrụ na ọ ya ekwe ha mee ndị ọlụsị include because na ndị ọlụsị ahụ nwekwa ndị nwere ike ide something akụziere ha anya ha na-eme ya nwee ndị enweghị ike and ụdị ndị ahụ enweghị ike ọ ya enwenaghị etu a esi enye ha something ha wee nwee ike ide eri nke bụ nri ndị ahụ mụrụ ife ahụ ha mụchakwana ya na ọ ya enwe ike inye aka ụgwọdụ ihe dị ka onye mụrụ etu esi akwachi akpa ụkwụ ụmụ ife aha gasị ọrụ erika nke onye nwere ike eme ka ọrụ ya osi ebe aha na-erikwa nri and the gọọmenti gọọmenti ya na-afụkwana maka ha because ha enweghị that strength ime ihe ọbụla.
Well, back and we heard it from our street parliamentarians, everybody throwing it a bit of his own wisdom in people with disability, craving and clamoring for the inclusion of them in the scope and scheme of things when it has to do with the society. Actually, none of these people act to be blind or deformed in one form or the other, but just like we say, nature has a way of paying us back in a coin that we didn't actually ask for. Quickly, let me ask you, Chairman Chuks. Now, talking about disability and then the issue of government trying to look into this, how much are you putting some reference onto the private sector, businesses, private individual, and even the church? What are the role of the people that make up the society doing in order to alleviate the plans, talking about the inclusiveness of people living with disability in the society?
The society always takes a clue from what government is saying or doing. And in Anambra State, we say, we know the way, we go the way, we show the way. Anambra State, for the past several years, have been under APGA administration. The All-Ground Alliance, the party in Anambra State, has been very inclusive. And the mantra, Unyaya na Nwanne, cannot say it better than that. Now, we have taken it a step further. Unyaya na Nwanne makanobu onyolose. For persons with disabilities, APGA persons with disabilities, we say, Unyaya na Nwanne makanobu onyolose. So that is what APGA administration is promoting in Anambra State, and the society is hearing it. It's permeating every fabric of the society, and we are getting response from different organizations, churches, different places. We haven't achieved 100% inclusion, but the battle continues. They say, and let it continue. The struggle continues, and I believe we cannot roll back the gains we have made in the years gone by, where we have ensured inclusivity at the highest level, where we have, in Anambra State, cultivated the spirit of inclusion as promoted by the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And the slogan of the United Nations that says, nothing about us without us. Nothing about us without us. If you're going to talk about us, include us in the decision-making process. If you're going to legislate about us, you need to include us in the process. If you are talking about our welfare, make us part of the decision-making. So we can tell you that the shoe we wear is itching left or right, front or back. Others cannot pretend to know everything about another person. Ajuluchukwu, if I tell you now that I know about your problems and all about you, I will be lying. Even if you're a professional, even if you're a specialist in a certain area, you cannot know better than the person that is going through it by experience. That is why we appeal to government at all levels, to churches, to society, to the PGs, to the traditional rulers. Include persons with disabilities in your communities. Recently, we promoted and said we are including traditional rulers, president generals, community leaders in the program we have. That Professor C.C. Soludo, CFR, said that disability services must get to the rural areas. What are we talking about? Inclusion. We want persons with disabilities to be represented in town union executives. They can advise them on the needs of persons with disabilities in their communities. We want persons with disabilities in certain villages to be included in the decision-making process in their rural area. We want every village head to identify persons with disabilities in their villages. We want every omona, every kindred, to identify persons with disabilities in their kindred, in their omona, get them, compile their names, bring it to the village head. The village head bring it to the community leader. The community leader bring it to the town union executive. The town union executive bring it to the local government TC chairman. The TC chairman will work with Anambra State Disability Rights Commission to ensure that every person with disability in their locality is cared for, is taken care of, is included in the affairs. We are not just in Oka. We are not just in urban centers. We are going to the rural areas. You heard recently that we are appointing commission liaison officers to go to rural areas and liaise with church leaders, liaise with community leaders to provide succor for persons with disabilities, not just to give them palliatives. We're not doing this just for the purpose of palliative distribution. No, we're doing this for uplifting their standard of living, to send them to school for those ones who need to go to school, to send them to learn skill for those ones who need to learn skill. Today, Mr. Governor is flagging off one youth, 2 skills. And we want persons with disabilities, the youth, to be included in this. In the last one, they were included. In this one, we want to ensure that the youth with disabilities get their share of this training, and when they finish training, that they get empowered. Anambra State Disability Rights Commission is one-stop shop for issues and matters of persons with disabilities in Anambra State. So whatever else anybody is doing elsewhere, fighting for the interests of persons with disabilities, we are saying, come to the commission and let us know what you are doing. The law empowers us to register organizations of persons with disabilities, organizations that fight for the interests of persons with disabilities, for coordination and assistance. And we are calling on everyone who has a person with disability to let us know if there are needs, if there are situations. Come to the commission. This commission is for you. We liaise with Ministry of Social Welfare, Ministry of Women Affairs right now, and our office is domiciled within the premises of the Ministry of Women Affairs. So we are saying we are here for you. Don't allow that person with disability in your local area to stay useless, to stay begging, to stay and you think is a person with liability. No, that person can become an asset to your community, to your village, to your family. Just help us to help them. We are including them in every aspect. In parties, even this law charges political parties to ensure that persons with disabilities participate in their political activities, that they will empower them to vote, we empower them to participate in their campaign. Last time, I was a campaign director for one of Professor C.C. Soludo's campaign outfit. It was my responsibility to mobilize persons with disabilities, communities of persons with disabilities, and we did. And we massively voted for APUGA. And we are not saying we are only limited to one political party. There's freedom of association. If you belong to APC, do your best there. If you belong to PDP, if you belong to Labour Party, if you belong to APUGA, what we are saying is that persons with disabilities must be visible in every area, in every party, and ensure inclusiveness in your activities.
Thank you so much. Chairman, people with the disability, Anambra State Commission, you've really talked much, talking about Barrister Chuks Ezewuzie It's really been interesting having you around here, and you've opened the minds and the hearts of people that are at home watching us wherever they are, or maybe at their offices. The people living with disability, if you look around you and you see any person with such, you know where to go. You said that their office is domiciled at the Ministry of Women Affairs and Children, so you can go there and make a complaint, and definitely you get to see. And so if somebody wants to reach out to you for any case regarding that, will that be done at the ministry too?
If you go to the ministry, they will direct you to our office, but you can come direct to the commission. It's located in the same premises with the ministry. And we have a phone number, we have a WhatsApp number, we have email. You can reach us via any of these channels. Our phone number is 0903-641-2791. Again, 0903-641-2791. And it's also a WhatsApp number. People find it easier these days. You can send a WhatsApp number to that, a WhatsApp message to that number, and you can call that number. It's available to you. And you can come, drop letters, you can come collect information that you need for your loved one with disabilities.
Thank you so much, and that's what we call it a wrap on this morning's Good Morning Anambra, talking about ensuring inclusion, the impact of Anambra State Disability Rights Commission, ASDRC. Thank you, Barrister Chuks Ezewuzie, for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for being our voice.
Thank you so much. And then tomorrow we'll definitely get to do it again. My name is still Ajumichuku Okagwe, saying thank you for watching. Have a blessed morning.